every year I tell myself I am going to be more organized. I will have my student data ready at every single meeting and I will know what I'm talking about. Well, still waiting on that day. But I have created this data trackers for teachers, and these are different data trackers that I have tried, and they all really work. It just really depends on what you decide as a grade level team, what your school wants you to keep track of, or what your district wants you to keep track of, or what kind of assessments your students are taking. So this product has a bunch of different versions and a bunch of different tests that you could possibly keep track of. So let's dig in. In here we have, also you can completely edit these based off of your needs. So let's take a look. See, this is a way for you to keep track of their unit assessments. You can list all of your student names here and then all of their scores. So you kind of have all of their assessments ready to go. You can print these out and write their scores by hand, or you can save it on your laptop and keep track that way. This is a Google slide and it's pretty easy to keep track of. Now there's a different version. Again, you have your student names here, you have the unit scores, and then you can write little comments on there. Because sometimes in meetings I found that I would be asked, oh, what did they struggle the most in? Or what, questions like that, and then I kind of like forget because there are so many students. But this way you write little comments on there and then you can quickly answer those types of questions during your meetings, your staff meetings, your PLCs, and so forth. So again, those are different versions of the same thing. Now this one, I kind of left it blank where you might want to write the topic for the unit assessment. You don't want to write, if you don't want to write test 1 or unit 1, if you want to write the actual title of the subject or the title of the standard, really depends on you. So I left that blank because I don't know, some of you might want that. And so then I have this type of tracker where, again, you have the student names, but then I wrote fall, winter, spring, now, and then next steps. Now, this was helpful to me because of all the different district and state assessments my students had to take. There were 2 different ones. I believe they had to take like a iReady diagnostic assessment they had to take an iReady assessment in the fall, winter, spring. And then on top of that, they also had to take the NWEA MAP assessment. And that was also fall, winter, and spring. And then towards the end of the year, they took the Florida State assessment. So I would just write the assessment name up here. Maybe it's the MAP assessment. And then all of their names, and then I would write their fall score. And then I would just keep track that way. And then I had little next steps or little comments on here just for myself to keep track of what they needed to work on. So, and that, that goes for reading, math, reading, and science. And this data tracker keeps track of the standards. Maybe you want to group students based off of the standard that they all need to work on. So in this spot, you would put the name of the standard and kind of like what the standard is about. Maybe it's a multiplication standard, and then 3 to 5 students on here that you would kind of group together where you can do an intervention or a small group activity just for those students based off of that standard. And here you would just write, maybe you want to put some example problems and next steps or some strategies, notes for yourself on what you will do in that small group. And again, that goes for math. Is that what I thought? Yeah. Yeah. Math, science, reading, same thing. This one is a math conference sheet. I also have it for science and reading as well. But you would write the date, the students you had a conference with, their strengths and their goals and next steps. Now, this could be double-sided, depending on how many students you have. But it's always a good idea to have like a one-on-one conversation with your students and discuss their strengths and their next steps. And maybe this is the time you want to discuss their scores as well. And then they can keep track in their own data folders or data binders on their conference sheet as well. So this kind of goes with the, if you watch my other videos or where students, the student data trackers, they have their own conference sheets. So you would write your notes on here while they write their notes on their conference sheets. And this is another conference sheet where you are able to list more students and just quick little notes on the next step. So it really depends on what you need. One year I really needed to write the examples, the math examples that I'm going to do in those groups, or I just needed a bigger space. But then on other years, I just needed a little comments, and I used to write them on sticky notes, but I found that it was a lot easier for me to like have it all on one page. It just depends on how your brain works and what you need. Again, so you want to pick and choose what you need for your students, what your students need, what your school wants you to keep track of. In the next part of this video, I am going to show you how this digital product looks like and how you can edit it. And before that, I had my own data binder. So I would have one binder, and in that binder, I would keep track of all of my student data, of my conferences, and of their different test scores. So you could have these page dividers, and this is numbered 1 through 25. Maybe each student has their own number. Or if you get different page dividers, you could write their names on there. And this was just so helpful for me because I would take my binder to every meeting. So you never know you never know what will happen in these meetings. So I would just take my binder with me, and usually there's always some kind of conversation about student scores and what we're doing in our classroom. So it was really helpful to have it ready because I have a bad memory, and there's no way I could remember everything. So that's just an idea. Review of the data trackers for teachers. You are just going to pick and choose what you like from this digital product. You are obviously not going to use every single page. I mean, there's about 39 pages in here. So pick and choose which tracker you like. This one on the screen is for unit assessments, but you can put which class this is for at the top over here, the time of your class, if you're in middle school and you have more than 4 classes, and you would put all of the students' names here and their scores. This is great as a way to use in your staff meetings, in your PLCs, so you are ready to share your data with your colleagues. And I have different versions of tracking unit assessments. This one has a column where you can add little comments. So maybe one of your students still needs to work on multiplication while the other needs to work on division. So you want to add those little comments specific to your students based off of that unit assessment. Over here, we have a math data tracker. I made one for reading and science. And then this spot, you can add all of your students and then their fall score, winter score, and spring score, and then what their next steps are. This could be used for your district assessments or your state assessments that you have to take 3 times a year. And again, this is great to use during your data meetings as a whole, if you have data meetings for the entire school or for just your grade level. This data tracker is something you can use for your intervention time, where you just need to group some students and have small group instruction. So here you would list a standard, maybe an example of what that standard is asking for your students to do, and then group your students, maybe have 2 to 4 students in here that need help on that same standard. And in this third column, you can put some examples in there and some strategies that you want to cover in that small group. This one is a math conference sheet, and I've made one for reading and science as well. When you have time to meet one-on-one with each student, you would write the date here and then the student name and their strengths and their goals and next steps. So maybe they have taken their fall assessment and you want to cover their strengths and their next steps before they take their winter assessment. And try to find some time to meet with each student. Maybe you will have a whole day set for these conferences, and you meet with every student that entire day. It might take you 5 to 10 minutes per student. Maybe you will meet with a group of students at the same time if they have the same strengths and the same next steps. You can meet with them during your rotations or maybe during lunch or after school, whenever you have time. You might also like my data trackers for students or the life cycles resources that I've put up on the website. So make sure you check those out as well. I really hope that this resource was helpful. Please let me know in the comments on how you use the data trackers for teachers resource in your school. And if you have any tips, tricks, let us know in the comment section so we can all learn from each other. Please check out my other resources, the data trackers for students, as well as the life cycle of an avocado and the life cycle of a mango, among my many other resources, and let me know how you like those. All right, till next time.